Here we go again. I'm sure that some of y'all have seen this article regarding this white female that sexually molested a 13-year-old student. She's a teacher. Now, we older men always say things like, why couldn't we have a teacher like this when we were 13 years old? But it does not make it right now. I guarantee you this is one of those females that when an older guy try to talk to her, although she's like 27 years old, she's probably one of these females that's always, you're old enough to be my grandfather. You old enough to be my father. You're too old. But yet this same female that's supposed to be teaching these students, well, she's teaching them, but in the wrong way. She's giving them sex education, but she's supposed to be protecting these students, but instead she's giving these students head. Now, this has become the norm. And why don't young children have a Me Too organization where they're protected from these sexual predators that call themselves teachers? Now listen, it has been proven that there's so many sexual predators out there, white females, teachers. There are too many men out there that's more than willing to give you what you feel that you're lacking. And you know, it's evident, we can see that there are so many white females and even black females that are sexually starving. They're not getting none. Because every time you turn on Facebook, every time you turn on Instagram, every time you turn on Twitter, some white female and black female have her butt turned toward the camera. Sometimes I could be in a public place, man. I could be like in the post office shipping off orders, and I happen to sign on to Twitter. And there's a little old lady standing in back of me, and all of a sudden it's like I flip it on Twitter and this big old butt is sitting there, and I have to like quickly close out Twitter. The same thing with Instagram, because these females are sexually deprived. And these are women that's married. They have a husband at home, but their husband apparently is not enough for them, to the point where they have to seek out a child, 12, 13, 10 years old. And I'm sure that there's a lot of cases like this that have not come to light. You'd be surprised of the number of babysitters that you trust with your daughters and your sons that's sexually molesting your child. And you wonder why your little boys are so happy when the babysitter comes over. But this is what she tells this 13-year-old boy. I want you every day. Arizona teacher accused of sex with student 13 in classroom. Now, I'm going to put the article on the bottom. You guys can check it out for yourself. It's got a video attached to it. But this goes to show she's a millennial. And I talked about millennials in my last video. Now, this says the alleged text exchanges between 6th grade teacher Brittany Zamora and a 13-year-old boy are as lurid as the accusation of sex in the classroom. Zamora, 27, remained in the 4th Avenue jail in Phoenix on Tuesday after her Thursday arrest on suspicion of sexual misconduct with a minor According to KNXV, the victim's father reported the lurid text message exchange between his son and the Las Bryas Academy elementary school teacher to the principal Wednesday. According to jail records, she is facing 8 counts of sexual conduct with a minor, 2 counts of child molestation, and 1 count of transmitting obscene material. Goodyear, Arizona police told WITI that the boy's parent became aware of the sexual relationship between their son and his teacher through an app they used to monitor his phone. Those texts and messages through Instagram shocked the family and will now be used as evidence in the case against Zamora, in which the state will argue that she had sex with the boy 3 times, performing oral sex on him in her classroom and in her car. Now, I'm wondering how many times she take care of her husband at home like that, or what type of excuse she used to not have sex with her own husband. But yet she's got her eye on this little boy in her classroom. Another student allegedly witnessed the sex in the classroom. Wait, how did that happen? Another student allegedly witnessed the sex in the classroom and was also sent nude photos of Zamora. Wow. According to the Arizona Republic, police say Zamora's illicit relationship with the student started when she began flirting with him on an in-class group chat. It was there she first sent nude photos of herself to the student, and the photos of herself in lingerie and crotchless bottoms. Now, I'm wondering what her husband has to say after hearing about this. I wonder if he's going to stay with this chick, or if he's going to just move on. But then again, I mean, we don't know what's going on in her home and what made her decide to go outside. Because if you think about it, she's with these kids the majority of the time. And then when she come home, she's probably grading papers. And she's thinking about this little cute boy that she saw at school, that she flirted with. And then she decided to start sending him photos. Now, I'm wondering if she sent her husband some photos of crotchless underwear and lingerie. Now, she says to this little boy, "I know, baby, I want you every day with no time limit." Zamora responded, according to the documents, "If I could quit my job and F you," and I'm sure that's what that meant, explicit, "and F you all day, I would." What a lucky 13-year-old boy. Zamora's husband called the alleged victim's father before the explicit exchange and sexual contact was reported to the authorities. According to the court documents, Zamora's husband apparently suggested they meet up and settle this because his wife had made a big mistake. So now the father, or her husband, is now, he's like trying to defend her in this mess. This is ill. So they both have an issue. And I wouldn't doubt if they both mess with children, because she was just too comfortable with this. 3 students wrote the Las Bryas principal weeks before the alleged sexual contact, claiming elements of favoritism between Zamora and the alleged victims, according to KPNX. Now, listen to what this female says when she was in court. I want you guys to listen to this. Let me turn this up so you guys can hear it.
Developments tonight, a Goodyear teacher in front of a judge charged with sexual misconduct with a 13-year-old student.
And listen to what Brittany Zamora requested today in court.
"I'd love to go home to my husband."
Said, "I'd love to go home to my husband."
She loved to go home to her husband. they should investigate her husband as well, because he's defending her, talking about she made a mistake, and he's trying to settle it. Excuse me. He's trying to settle it with this boy's father. Then it says the alleged sexual contact happened from about February 1st through March 8th, according to court records. And I'm going to put the link on the bottom here, but there's a lot of sexual, a lot of white chicks out there that's horny, man. There's a lot of females out there, period, man. It's really weird because it seemed like the women of this time is undersexed. They're undersexed because when you turn on social media, all you see are these females with their clothes off. They want everybody, and a lot of these chicks, man, they have husbands. They have boyfriends. And the boyfriends, I guess, are cool with that. Me personally, I couldn't tolerate that. I could not tolerate my woman showing her goods and my goods to the world. Because when you get a female that have no problem taking her clothes off and displaying them on social media in front of the world, that's a female you cannot trust to settle down with. Now, she may be your chick, but yet to settle down with her and think that she's going to be faithful, it's not going to happen. Because any woman that have any type of self-respect and pride about herself is not going to be displaying herself on social media, and she's not going to be sending illicit photos to dudes. Unless, of course, she's got interest in that dude. Unless, of course, if she want that dude to hit it, right? They're going to do that. But the time period that we're living in now, men have to be really careful. Because number one, you don't know what type of disease this chick is carrying. And now she's now taking the same disease, this poison, to your children. There are grown women that's having relationships with little girls on the side. And they come in the name of trying to mentor them. You know, they're hanging out with this little girl, and usually when people look at that, they thinking like, oh, that's her daughter, or that's the little girl that she's mentoring or what have you. But in the closet, she's having a secret affair with this little girl. She's grooming her to be a sodomite or lesbian. And I shared this story before. I used to see this lady with this young girl, man. This woman, she was in her late 20s, early 30s. And she used to always have this little girl with her that was like 15-year-old, this little Spanish girl. The female was black. And she always had this little girl with her, taking her shopping. Well, when the little girl became of age, of legal age, next thing you know, they're in a relationship together. So either they've been in a relationship all that time, or she was grooming that girl from a very young age. See, it's easy for females to point their fingers at guys and call guys creepy and say guys are creeps and pedophiles and perverts and all these names that they have. Just because of the fact that a man has interest in a woman, or if a man compliments a woman. She don't want a man nowadays. She want these little boys, right? And this is probably one of the same females that's standing up against Trump and talks about Trump and how he disrespects women, but yet she's having an affair with a little 13-year-old boy. So there are so many sexual offenders out there, sex offender, white females, that we really don't even hear about. Yes, we read news clippings where there's white chicks that's teachers, and they're all teachers. These are teachers, so white females now are getting these teaching jobs because that's like paradise to them. Teaching in a school for a sex offender, be it male or female, is paradise. So they love working with little children. They love manipulating the minds of little children. And these are white chicks that have husbands at home, that have boyfriends. But apparently the husband and the boyfriend is not enough for her. What can this little 13-year-old boy do for her? Where does he take her mind? That's like a spiritual vampire. Stealing his energy, stealing his innocence, sapping the energy right from him, his youthfulness, just zapping it right out of him. Not allowing him to have a normal childhood. But yet you have females that's always talking about men. When you watch Lifetime television, it's always the guy that's the rapist, that's the one that abused women, that's the bad guy. Regardless of what she do, the man is the bad guy. And here you have a white female that you may not ever hear anything else about this article, about this case. You probably won't hear anything else about this. But yet, this is something that happens on a regular basis, and nobody is protesting. Nobody is trying to organize, talking about how your children's lives matter and how they need to ban these sexual, and they really need to start looking at these white females, man, when they start taking these teaching positions. They need a psychological exam before they even begin to start teaching. See, so, but I'm going to put the article link on the bottom. You guys feedback and tell me what you think. But there are so many females out there, so many white chicks, man, that's undersexed. There's so many black females out there that's undersexed. We're dealing with a whole new species. And I've talked about this over and over again in different videos. We're dealing with an entirely different species nowadays. And again, like I said, a lot of these teachers, man, they don't look too bad. And I'm sure there's a lot of older guys, man, that would have loved to have a teacher like this. Now, I'm not saying that I'm in support of what she's doing to this little boy. But as a male, you know, that's like every young boy's fantasy. You know, especially if he's got a hot teacher, man, and he thinks she look good. You know, so feedback, tell me what you think. But hide your children, hide your sons, because these white females, these teachers, they're after them, right? And I remember, and I told this story before, I remember this one teacher, man, was telling my son how good he smelled, you know, because he used to put my oils on, you know, and she'd tell him how good he smells. She called him a handsome dark chocolate man. So I had to go out there and address that issue, you know. So you have a lot, and it was a white teacher. So you have a lot of these white chicks, man, that's undersexed. And instead of y'all going out there messing with these little boys, there's a lot of dudes out there, man, a lot of brothers that would love to fulfill those needs. So I'm going to put the article on the bottom. You guys feedback, and you tell me what you think. Until next time, I'm fearless.